Sirens wailed across the Middle East, a chilling symphony of impending danger. The night air crackled with tension. Decades of shadow conflict between Iran and Israel, a long and complex history of veiled hostilities, have now exploded into open warfare, a dangerous escalation that threatens to destabilize the entire region. It began with a precision Israeli airstrike in Damascus, a calculated move with far-reaching consequences. This strike killed top Iranian commanders, a devastating blow to Tehran's military apparatus. In response, Tehran unleashed over 300 drones and missiles, a massive aerial assault. These were aimed at Israeli cities, a direct and unprecedented attack. Israel swiftly responded with targeted airstrikes deep inside Iran, a clear message of deterrence. This signaled its reach and resolve, demonstrating its capability to strike back at will. For years their rivalry played out through proxies, a shadow war fought on multiple fronts, but now both nations are openly trading blows, marking a dangerous departure from the past. This is raising the risk of catastrophic miscalculation, a scenario that could lead to unimaginable consequences. The world watched in alarm as the situation rapidly deteriorated. There is a growing fear of a regional war that could spiral out of control, engulfing neighboring countries and drawing in global powers. Global leaders scrambled to urge restraint, desperately seeking a way to de-escalate the crisis. They know a direct Iran-Israel war could ignite a wider conflagration, pulling in allies and destabilizing the entire region. This could also disrupt vital oil routes, sending shockwaves through the global economy. Images of explosions and civilians fleeing, seeking safety from the relentless bombardment, brought home the devastating human cost of this conflict. A stark reminder of the suffering it inflicts. Markets trembled and diplomatic channels buzzed, reflecting the global anxiety surrounding the crisis. In our interconnected world, this conflict threatens everyone, regardless of geographical location. The impacts range from energy prices to global security, affecting the lives of people across the globe. The question looms large: is this the spark for a third world war? A global conflict that could reshape the world order? Or can diplomacy pull us back from the brink, averting a catastrophe and paving the way for peace? The answer remains uncertain as the world holds its breath, anxiously awaiting the next move in this high-stakes game. To truly grasp the gravity of today's crisis, to understand the complexities that drive it, we must revisit the past, examining the key turning points and the long, simmering tensions that have shaped the present. Before 1979, a very different reality existed. Iran and Israel were surprisingly covert partners, finding common ground and uniting against the rising tide of Arab nationalism in the region. However, the Iranian Revolution dramatically changed everything, ushering in a new era of hostility and conflict. It brought Ayatollah Khomeini's revolutionary regime to power, fundamentally altering Iran's relationship with the world. The revolution led to recasting Israel, once a partner, as a sworn enemy, a complete reversal of previous alliances. Iran's new leadership openly and vehemently called for Israel's destruction, making it a cornerstone of their ideology. This anti-Israel ideology became central to its foreign policy, shaping its actions and alliances on the global stage. This wasn't just about territory or political maneuvering. It was a fundamental clash of worldviews, a battle between competing ideologies and visions for the future of the region. To further its goals, Iran strategically built a network of proxies, including Hezbollah, Hamas, and various other groups, arming them with advanced weaponry and resources to pressure Israel from all sides, creating a ring of fire. Israel, feeling existentially threatened by this growing encirclement, responded with a combination of covert operations and targeted strikes against Iranian interests and its proxies. The recent escalation we are witnessing is simply the latest and perhaps most dangerous in a long and bloody cycle of attack and retaliation. Each side feels compelled to respond to the other's actions, driven by a perceived need to defend itself and its interests, fueling a dangerous ladder of escalation that threatens to spiral out of control. What began as a shadow war, fought in the shadows and through proxies, has now burst into the open, with both sides risking a full-blown conflict that could engulf the entire region, drawing in other nations and destabilizing the entire Middle East. The stakes are no longer just local or regional, they're undeniably global, with implications for international security and stability. The world now faces the dire consequences of decades of unresolved animosity, a legacy of mistrust and conflict that threatens to erupt into a wider war. The critical question now is this: Can this dangerous cycle of violence be broken? Can diplomacy prevail before it's definitively too late? The Iran-Israel conflict is now a global fault line, a deep chasm that threatens to destabilize the entire international landscape. It's a conflict steeped in history, fueled by ideological differences, and intensified by the pursuit of regional dominance, forcing nations to choose sides, creating a complex web of alliances and rivalries that extends far beyond the Middle East. Countries are carefully weighing their options, considering their strategic interests and historical ties. Israel enjoys unwavering U.S. support, military aid, diplomatic backing, and Western allies like the UK, France, and Germany. Iran counters with its axis of resistance, Hezbollah, Hamas, and militias in Iraq and Yemen, plus diplomatic and economic ties to Russia and China. Russia and China, while not formal military allies, provide Iran with crucial support, bolstering its economy and military capabilities, challenging U.S. dominance. Meanwhile, Arab states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, once hostile to Israel, now quietly cooperate with it to counter Iran's influence. This shift in alliances reflects the evolving geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. These nations walk a tightrope, fearing both Iranian power and the chaos of war on their doorstep. They are desperately trying to maintain stability in a region plagued by conflict and uncertainty. The world is split into rival camps, making the crisis far more volatile. A single misstep could trigger a chain reaction, drawing in more countries. The conflict is no longer just about Iran and Israel. It's a proxy for global power struggles. As alliances harden, the risk of escalation grows. The world watches, hoping diplomacy prevails over the drums of war. The stakes, not just regional stability, but the future of the global order. The outcome will shape geopolitics for years to come. The decisions made today will determine the balance of power and the prospects for peace in the years ahead. Two dangers make this crisis uniquely terrifying: nuclear weapons and oil. Israel is believed to have nuclear arms, a silent deterrent for decades. Iran, a threshold nuclear state, is enriching uranium close to weapons grade, raising fears of a regional arms race. If war escalates, could Israel use its nuclear arsenal? Would Iran race to build a bomb? The mere possibility is a global nightmare. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz, vital for a fifth of the world's oil, sits at Iran's doorstep. Iran has threatened to close it if attacked, risking a global economic shock. Oil prices would soar, triggering recession and instability worldwide. These twin threats, nuclear and economic, make the conflict a direct danger to all nations. The world's prosperity and security hang in the balance. That's why urgent diplomacy is not just wise, it's essential. The stakes could not be higher. The U.S. stands at the center of this crisis, balancing support for Israel with efforts to prevent a wider war. After Iran's missile barrage, President Trump reaffirmed America's ironclad commitment, with U.S. forces helping intercept incoming threats. Yet, Washington urges restraint, warning Israel against further escalation and refusing to join offensive operations. The White House fears a regional war would be disastrous for U.S. interests and the global economy. Economic pressure is also in play. New sanctions target Iran's missile and drone programs, aiming to weaken Tehran without direct conflict. Diplomacy is in overdrive, with U.S. officials rallying allies to condemn Iran and push for de-escalation. The challenge: reassure Israel, deter Iran, and avoid being dragged into another Middle East war. America's response could determine whether the region steps back from the brink or tumbles into chaos. The stakes are immense, and the world is watching. Success or failure here will echo far beyond the Middle East. The next moves are critical. While the U.S. leads the Western response, Russia, China, and North Korea play their own high-stakes games. Russia, now a key Iranian partner, benefits from Middle East turmoil. It distracts the West and boosts Moscow's influence. Moscow supplies Iran with technology and diplomatic cover, complicating Western efforts to isolate Tehran. China, Iran's top oil customer, fears war would disrupt its economy and Belt and Road investments. Beijing calls for calm, but its trade with Iran helps Tehran withstand U.S. sanctions, subtly undermining American leverage. Both Russia and China see opportunity in challenging U.S. dominance, even as they urge restraint. North Korea, though less visible, has supplied missile technology to Iran, showing how sanctioned states cooperate to defy the West. These global players add layers of complexity and risk to the crisis. Their actions could tip the balance toward peace or further escalation. The Middle East is now a chessboard for great power rivalry. The outcome will shape the world order. The Iran-Israel standoff is a test of global stability, with every move carrying worldwide consequences. Miscalculation is the greatest danger. A single strike or assassination could trigger all-out war. Proxy forces like Hezbollah could escalate the conflict dramatically, opening new fronts and causing humanitarian disaster. Yet neither Iran nor Israel truly wants a full-scale war. Both know the costs would be catastrophic. This mutual fear creates a narrow window for diplomacy. International pressure from the US, Europe, Russia, and China pushes both sides to step back. Diplomatic channels are working overtime to find an off-ramp. The balance between war and peace is razor-thin. The world holds its breath, hoping leaders choose restraint. The next decision could shape history. The world stands at a crossroads. Will Iran and Israel step back or spiral into wider war? One path is cautious de-escalation. Both sides claim victory, return to shadow conflict, and avoid direct confrontation. This is what global powers are urging, hoping to contain the crisis. But escalation remains a real risk. Another bold strike or miscalculation could ignite a regional war, drawing in neighbors and the US. A third world war is unlikely for now, as major powers seek to avoid direct conflict. Still, the risk of a regional explosion with global consequences is real. The crisis is a stark reminder of how fragile peace can be. The world has pulled back from the brink, but the underlying conflict remains unresolved. Only wise leadership and relentless diplomacy can prevent disaster. The alternative is too horrific to contemplate.